Alright, I hope that this is working. So I'm waiting for some comments that you can see me, you can hear me. Alright, is everything okay? Well, it looks like it should be working. So today we are going to talk a little bit about different international exams that test your knowledge of English if you're not a native speaker. So just a little bit about me, who I am and why I'm talking about this. So I've got a master's in linguistics from High School of Economics. It's one of the best universities in Russia, in Moscow. Originally I'm from Russia, so I'm not a native speaker of English, and I had to take those English exams myself. I've got a C2 proficiency certificate in English. It's a Cambridge examination. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later today. I also worked in the same university where I got my master's, and I taught a course there that was, well, part of it was to prepare students for IELTS, which is another international English exam that we're also going to mention today. I worked in a Cambridge exams centre for 2 years, and now I live in the UK. So I've seen Cambridge exams from different sides. I've seen them as a candidate because I took a number of English exams, Cambridge exams myself. And as I say, I've got a C2 certificate, and I also have a TKT certificates. These are specialized exams for teachers of English. As I worked in a Cambridge exams center, I've seen Cambridge exams as an organizer and as an invigilator. If you are not sure what this means, an invigilator is a special person who meets you when you come to take the exam, checks your passport and stays there with you in the room to make sure that no one is cheating, that everything is going according to all the rules. So that was me. I did this a number of times while working in a Cambridge Exams Centre. And I also dealt with things like signing people up for exams, organizing all the papers and everything. And I've seen the Cambridge exams as a teacher as well, as I helped students prepare for Cambridge exams, for IELTS, for C1 Advanced, and the other exams. So, what international exams that test your English knowledge are there? There are actually quite a lot. And if you are currently thinking of taking an exam, maybe in your near future, maybe sometime in a further away future, you've probably heard some of these abbreviations and some of these names of exams. Here are some examples of popular ones: IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge English Qualifications, which is not a single exam. This is, in fact, several exams, like an umbrella term for all of them put together. Pearson Test of English, Trinity College in London ESOL, which is again not a single exam. All of these exams have different versions, different ways in which you can take them. And here I say EFL / ESOL exams. So if this is something you're interested in, you'll probably see these abbreviations a lot. So just to make sure that we understand what they all mean. EFL is English as a foreign language. So it means you're not a native speaker of English and you started learning it sometime later in life, not when you were a baby or a little child. If you are a native speaker of English, then you don't really qualify to take EFL exams because you already know English from baby stage. And there are other exams that you might want to take, such as graduation exams from school, but in general, EFL exams are not something that you're usually expected to know because, well, to provide this certificate, you're just a native speaker. So this video is primarily for non-native speakers of English. So another term that you will see quite frequently is ESOL, English for Speakers of Other Languages, which is pretty much the same as English as a foreign language. There might be some differences in definitions in certain, areas of certain institutions might define them a bit differently, but basically it means the same thing. So English for speakers of other languages, so for speakers of, I don't know, French, German, Spanish, Russian, any other language that's not English, again means that English is a foreign language for them. Then two exams that are very popular. IELTS actually stands for International English Language Testing System, and TOEFL stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language, which probably doesn't explain much to them because they all sound very similar. So what can be the differences between these exams? Well, first of all, probably where they are based. So from this little chart you can see that, well, IELTS, Cambridge English Qualifications, Pearson Test of English, Trinity College London ESOL are all based in the UK, while TOEFL is an American examination. But this does not necessarily mean that if you take one of these exams you can't go to the other country. In fact, usually both varieties of language, both British and American varieties, are acceptable for taking any of these exams. So you're not necessarily supposed to sound like a British speaker or like an American speaker according to the exam you choose to take. But yeah, it might be that certain institutions might prefer a certain exam, for example, based on where it comes from what country. So American universities might prefer TOEFL, and UK universities might prefer IELTS, for example. But this is a difference that only matters if you know exactly where you are going to go, what you're going to do, and in this case, of course, you should just probably ask the university or the workplace where you're going what exam they want you to take. Let's talk a little bit about how we can measure how well someone knows English at all. This was, of course, a question that people asked for a long time throughout history, but only around 30 years ago, Council of Europe joined efforts in trying to make some sort of a way to measure how well someone knows any language, well, any European language in particular. And the result of these efforts was the so-called Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. It was launched in 2001, and it's been very popular and probably becoming more popular still in assessing all European languages, and even beyond European languages, in fact, and of course including English. So this is how you can sort of the framework to which you can relate, which can show you where you are at the scale of knowing a language. So here you can see some descriptions. And what's important in this table is that, well, it's divided into these three sections. Yeah? A, basic user, B, independent user, and C, proficient user. And inside you have these levels A1 and A2, B1 and B2, and C1 and C2. So these are the six main levels into which we divide, well, all the students of a foreign language. And there are descriptions, as you can see, of what you are supposed to be able to do at each level. They might sound a bit abstract, a bit general, so we can't just ask a person, can you do this or not? Of course, we are supposed to test it somehow. But all the tests are usually based on these descriptions, on these broad descriptions, and they are somehow supposed to to relate to this table. You can read more about the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages on the Council of Europe website if you're interested in this. And if you aren't sure where you are in your learning of a language, you can find out where you stand right now by taking a self-assessment that you can find on their website. I'll put the link in the description of this video later. Again, it's not going to give you any precise result, it's not going to give you any numbers, but it's more of a just answering honestly. Do you think you can do this or not? So answering some questions like this. Yeah, can you understand, for example, the main ideas of complex text? Or can you only understand ideas from simple text? Yeah, so this kind of definitions. And you can also, it's not only for English, as I said, it's for all of European languages, so you can self-assess your knowledge in any of the European languages. They have these self-assessment grids for all of the European languages, not only the common ones like English, Spanish, German, or French, but also like Czech, Turkish, Russian, Estonian, Latvian, even Esperanto. So all sorts of languages. Just to check if there are any comments yet, if anyone is watching right now. Alright, I can't see any comments so far. But if you join this stream while I'm still speaking and you've got a comment, if you've got a question, you've got anything to say, then please feel free to tell me about it, to ask your question in the comments, and I will read it towards the end of this presentation. So the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages is used for all of European languages, and this is how we divide learners into, well, define how well they know a language. Coming back to the exams. So one of the exams that I mentioned, well, not one, but a group of exams, I would say, is called Cambridge English Qualifications. And it's actually based on the Common European Framework of Reference, which we just looked at. So it's got exams for each level. So what does it mean? It means that you think in advance what level you are at now, what level you want to prove that you've already reached, and you decide on the exam that you need. You choose the exam, you pay for a particular exam. For example, maybe you choose C1 Advanced. You want to prove that you have this level. So you get this exam, you sit the C1 Advanced exam, which is meant for candidates who have this level. And then you get your results, whether you passed or failed. And but it's not just a pass or fail. Of course, you'll get the numbers as well. So they go, well, from around 80 up to 230, which is the highest score that you can get. And for example, if you score between 180 to 200 after you set this exam C1 Advanced, it means that you are qualified. You get C1 Advanced. You can even get up to 210 points, which is like A for C1 Advanced. So it means that you're already C2 proficiency. Your knowledge is already bigger than you thought, yeah. Or you can get B2 first. Well, if you set this exam C1 Advanced, but you didn't quite get enough points, you can still qualify for B2. But if you score lower than that, then it's just they aren't sure what your level is, and you won't be assigned any level at all. You'll just fail the exam, essentially. So you need to choose wisely where you are now in your learning journey, and if you are C1 or around C1, you're trying to get C1, then you choose C1 Advanced. If you are not at this level yet, then maybe you want to choose B2 or B1 or even A2. And in fact, you can't go any lower than that for adults. For adults, it starts with A2. For children, there are special exams that are aimed at the audience of children, and it's got like vocabulary that's more interesting to children. It's got pictures, it's got different types of tasks, very different from the exams for adults. So yeah, this table shows us in orange here you can see the exams for adults, while in purple here you can see exams for children, potentially. Well, children up to, if they're teenagers, maybe they want to continue learning up to C1 Advanced, but C1 Advanced, C2 proficiency, these are not they don't have any specific version for children, while up to B2 you can get them in a version for children or for teenagers. what kind of things are assessed? There are usually 4 basic types of skills that we have when we talk about knowing a language, or being able to speak a language. So these include listening, being able to understand what someone says in a foreign language, and speaking, which is after you listen. You need to speak yourself to continue the conversation. So how you can respond and how you can get your point across. Then it's reading, how you understand the language in the written form, whether you understand all the information given, whether you can find the main ideas, or whether you understand some specific points in texts. And again, the opposite of that is writing, how well you can write something in a language. And there are, of course, different types of things that you can read and write and listen to and speak about. But these are the 4 main skills that are usually checked during these exams. And some of the exams also have an additional section, which is true for Cambridge English qualifications. They have a section on vocabulary and grammar, on just language, how aware you are of the language. What else can we see in this chart? That in fact there are specific exams for business people, for business related professions. It only comes in 3 varieties: business preliminary, business advantage, and business higher, B1, B2, and C1. But if your profession deals somehow with business, then you're probably interested in taking one of these instead of the general one, so that you can show it to maybe your employer or your future employer, your knowledge not only in English in general, but specifically in business related English. So yeah, English, Cambridge English qualifications work like this. You choose an exam and you take it at a specific level. So you aim for a specific level, you'll get all the tasks aimed at this specific level that you chose. IELTS, on the other hand, we can see it in red on the right. IELTS doesn't relate to any particular level. It's supposed to tell you what level you've got. So you just come, you just take this exam, and then the exam returns you the result what level you already have. Of course, it can't go through the whole range, because this would be probably impossible to assess very low levels and very high levels all together in the same exam. Is not a very easy task. So usually these exams still have some low point and some high point. So we could say that IELTS assesses your knowledge from approximately between A to B2 is the lowest scores that you can get, up to C1 or C2. This is a bit debatable, but yeah, according to Cambridge, IELTS comes into the C2 area, but not quite as high as C2 proficiency. But in fact, there is no one standard table that shows this relation between different exams. In a minute, I'll show you a couple of other ones that look a bit different. But yeah, approximately so. And approximately they correlate in this way. So for example, you take IELTS and maybe it returns something like 6.0, and then you can say that it's approximately equivalent to B2 using the Common European Framework of Reference. And yeah, these are the points you can get in IELTS. So it scores from 0 to 9, and you can also get scores in between, like 8.5 or 5.5. While in Cambridge English qualifications, as you remember, there is a more detailed scale with many more gradations of scores that you can get. But again, you get scores in each of the 4 main skills separately: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And usually your average score becomes your actual score that you get on your certificate as your main score. Alright, well, we won't stay here for a long time. This was taken from the official IELTS website, which you can visit. I will put the link into the description of this video again. Same as the Cambridge English qualifications. I'll put the link in the description so that you can have a look by yourself. And looking at TOEFL, it's also got its own scale. All of these exams have their own scales, and the scores by themselves don't really mean anything. If you just say, I've got this score, out of context, it means nothing. This score on what scale? And the most widespread scale is, of course, the Common European Framework of Reference scale from A1 to C2. So usually, if you say, for example, oh, I got B2, then that makes more sense. And here is a table, well, 2 tables in fact, of how IELTS and TOEFL correspond to each other. And the first one also shows how it corresponds to the Common European Framework of Reference. And as you can see, these are somewhat different. Even though it's the same exam, the same 2 exams, but different tables, different information. Why so? Well, because they were made by different institutions, these 2 tables. The first one was produced by the British Council, and the British Council, together with Cambridge the Cambridge University owns IELTS. So they're trying to show that IELTS goes further than TOEFL. And they say that the highest score you can get in TOEFL corresponds only to 8 in IELTS, while ETC, which is the organization that is responsible for TOEFL, shows us a completely different table. So they think that they correspond exactly, they map basically one to one, or even 9 in IELTS is 118 in TOEFL. So 180, or 20 is the highest score, and supposedly it doesn't exist in the IELTS exam. So this is all a bit subjective, and of course each institution will produce their own table that makes their exam look better. So you can't be sure about these correlations, but you can sort of more or less get an idea of how they correspond. Okay, let me see again if anyone's asking any questions. All right. Doesn't look like it. Okay. So yeah, but TOEFL, the same as IELTS, as you can see, tries to test your knowledge across the whole, across all of the levels. So it's not testing any level in particular. You just come, you sit the exam, and it returns you the level that you've got. All right, so what is the bottom line here? The main factor that you should use when choosing the right exam for you is the purpose, what you need this certificate for. If it's for an educational institution, entering a university, then you probably need to ask that university what, or that course, or anywhere you're entering, what certificates they accept, what certificates they prefer. Maybe they accept a number of different ones, but they prefer something in particular. And yeah, if you're planning to work somewhere, you need to ask your employer or your future employer, or just ask around in the area of work where you want to be, what kind of exams are usually acceptable. And you need to remember that there are specific exam versions for certain situations, such as there are special exams for children. The Cambridge English qualifications have special exams for children, for example. Yeah, for children as in non-native speakers of English who started learning English not in the stage when they were just little children, and so they didn't become bilingual or anything. They are just learners of English, learning it maybe at school or at a language center, but not speaking it at home. So there are special exams for them. Then there are special exams for business people, and there are also special versions. For example, there's a special version of IELTS, which is called IELTS Academic. So if you need English for academic purposes, for studying at a university, then you probably want to choose IELTS Academic. While if you have some other purpose, maybe you need IELTS General. And the exams are different. The reading and writing tasks are completely different, even though it's called the same exam, but two different exams inside the same exam. There are also specific exams if you want to move countries. So, for example, if you want to move to the UK, you will be asked to take one of the exams that the Home Office accepts. There is a special IELTS version, so it's not IELTS Academic and it's not IELTS General. It's a special exam, IELTS Life Skills, and there are a number of other exams that could possibly be accepted, and for other countries it might be other exams that they want. Again, if you have any specific profession, yeah, such as maybe you somehow, well, your profession is somehow connected to business, then maybe you want to take a special business exam. There can be special exams for healthcare professionals, for lawyers, and so on. For teachers of English, there are also special exams such as the TKT, Teacher Knowledge Test, which, as I said, I also took in the Cambridge, in the Cambridge Centre. And there are other examinations for teachers as well. So depending on your profession, depending on your needs, some specific exam might be available to you. If not, other factors to consider could be the location where you can take this exam. As for IELTS and English, Cambridge English qualifications, you can take them in Cambridge exams centres, which are located more or less all over the world, but not in all cities. So you would have to have a look on the internet what the closest location is with a Cambridge Exam Centre. They might be part of universities, especially big universities, or just centres on their own, maybe connected to language schools. But yeah, you might have to travel somewhere and maybe even quite far to reach the closest exam centre. If you can't travel for any reason, maybe you don't have the money to travel or the time or anything else, then there are also internet-based versions of some exams, and again you need to check to see how that works, what the conditions are, whether you need to be present at a certain location or not, or if you can just do it from your home. Then again, the prices of these exams are probably more or less similar. You can't really say that one of them is a lot more expensive than another one. But again, the price depends on a lot of factors. It depends on where you take the exam, in what country, in what city, in what specific exam center. It depends on what level you choose for Cambridge English qualifications, at least. You choose a specific level. So if you are choosing a higher level, it's probably going to cost more or less as much as IELTS. But if you're choosing a lower level, then it's going to be somewhat cheaper. And the price will also depend on the type of version you choose, or it might change depending on the version of exam you choose. So there are 3 types of exam versions that exams that they offer you. So paper-based version is the classical typical exam where you just come to the set venue at a set time, and they give you out papers with tasks. You can write something on the paper, make some notes, and then you are supposed to put your answers on a special answer sheet. There will be some sort of a grid where you find the number of the task, you find the right the option that you chose for that task, and maybe you shade it with a pencil or with a pen. The writing task, you will be writing in your with your hands in the handwritten version, and then you submit all of that back to the exam center. There may be a computer-based version, which is somewhat similar to the paper-based in the fact that you come to a certain location at a certain time, but you won't get any paper materials you will be seated at a computer, and the invigilators will open the software for you, start the exam, and you will do all the same things as you usually do in the paper-based version, but you will be using a computer to look at the tasks and also to fill in the answer sheets. So you will be answering the tasks as you go. And there is also the internet-based version, which you might be able to take from your home, depending on the type of exam and on the specific requirements that they have, whether you qualify for these requirements or not. And other than that, it's going to be very similar to the computer-based version. So you need to think about that. Are you comfortable working with paper, or are you more comfortable working with computers? How you want to take this exam, because the time limit is the same usually. The tasks are the same, everything is the same, but the format is different, so you can choose the format that you are more comfortable with. And the price might also be different, as well as the time, which is another factor. I didn't put it on the slide, but still this is another factor. The time when you get your certificate and how many days you get your certificate. How many days or weeks or months. Well, usually it's not months anymore, days or maybe weeks. Usually for paper-based, it might take a bit longer because they have to send the papers somewhere where they are analysed, like maybe to the UK if it's one of the Cambridge exams, and then they need to print out this paper certificate for you and send it back to you. So yeah, for computer-based or internet-based versions, it might take less time to get your certificate, but again, you need to check with the particular exam center. Another thing to mention here is that your certificate will not last forever, or might not last forever. If you take one of the Cambridge English qualifications exams from A2 to C2, then it's going to last forever. It doesn't have any expiration date. Of course, educational institutions or employers might prefer a certificate that was taken not very long ago, so you probably need to ask them again how old your certificate can be, but you can use it, you can keep using it for the rest of your life. It doesn't have any expiration date, while IELTS does. IELTS only lasts 2 years after you take it, and when those 2 years expire, then no official organization will usually accept this certificate. Although, again, you should probably check with the institution where you're applying. Yeah. So these are the differences, and these are the factors to consider. You can't really know all this information straight away. There is no comprehensive page that compares everything, because it would be really hard to do this. There are so many different exams locations, exam centers, and they all have different prices, and they might have different availability in terms of time when they run the exams. They might have different rules, so even if it's the same exam, the conditions will be a bit different in different exam centers, and you need to ask the particular exam center that where you chose to take your exam. Yeah, so this is it. Do you have any questions if anyone's watching right now? Let me check again the chat if anyone's there. Okay, it doesn't look like there are any questions. Alright, well, if you have any questions later, if you weren't here live watching this stream, if you watch it as a video after I finish talking, then you can still ask me questions in the comments, and I will be happy to answer them in the comments section. So don't hesitate to ask me any questions you have about international exams or about any of the exams in particular, about my experience with them, anything you'd like to know. And a little announcement at the end of this little talk. I'm currently gathering people for my English speaking club. It's going to be online in mini groups on Zoom twice a week, and there are different levels from elementary to advanced. It starts in May, so if you watch this video sometime very soon, then you can still get into this club in May. If not, I'm probably going to run it again in June, in July. If you're interested, please send me a message on my social media or just in the comments to this video. I'm going to read all the comments anyway, and yeah, if you're interested, I will send you all the details, additional information, and information how you can sign up. And another course that I'm planning to run is an intensive advanced level course. So the first one is just speaking, focus on speaking, new topics every lesson, and no writing tasks, just speaking mostly, yeah. And in the second course is going to be very comprehensive, so there will be speaking, listening, reading, writing, and we will be developing all of your skills in English at once. And it's mainly aimed at preparing for exams, so there will be a lot of exams papers for you to do, and a lot of feedback from me. And this course starts in June, so if you're interested, again, please send me a message or comment this video and tell me that you would like to join this course or that you would like to find out more about it. So thank you for watching. Just in case, let me check if there are any questions. Yeah, doesn't look like it, so I guess we can finish this stream. So you can join me next Friday. Next Friday we are going to keep talking about exams, and I'll talk about Cambridge exams in particular. We'll talk a little bit more about what they are like, what sections they consist of, what the scoring is like, what you need to be able to do to pass the exam, and so on. And if you liked this stream, if you found anything useful here, then please like this video, and please subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss more videos or more streams about exams and about English as a foreign language. Yeah, and please join me live next time if you can. Okay, thank you, bye bye.